Well, hello there, everyone. How are y'all doing? So good to see everyone. Thank you for tuning in, turning on, and being part of the discussion. Welcome, everybody. It's Thursday, and at least in this part of the world. Hold on one second. I think I have a puppy dog underneath me. Anyway, how are y'all doing? Hello, chat room. Good to see everybody. Uh, that is really quite funny. I mean, I kind of love it. I mean, the thing about real life is that it's real. Yeah. So anyway, as I get back here live, hey, Steiger, you're looking good. I'm just telling you, I'm looking from the future. Well, thank you. Thank you very much. Let me just speak favor. Speaking of favor, let me just speak favor over all of us. And, no matter where you stand, you can always use the favor. So I plant the seed in your life that favor will be with you and always and in every manner. And may you find that place that we all are seeking, where there is nothing missing, nothing broken. I would say that that would probably be a pretty good description of paradise, wouldn't it? Mm. Because I know this, with everything that's going on, there is either a couple different scenarios here. We're seeing the maturing, the fruition of an idea, a thought that was spoken in the ether. And then, I don't know. I don't know if it was aliens, gods. I don't know if it was humans. I don't know what. But something spoke what you and I are in right now into existence. Is this prophecy fulfilled? Again, the problem with prophecy, if it is real, then our lives matter very little. There's a set agenda within this simulation, within this matrix. And no matter what we do, what if we suddenly, as a species, had this epiphany moment that was shared with every human being on the planet at the same time? And we suddenly saw how all of this current madness, and we decided as a singularity of thought, saying, no, no, we don't want this. Does that mean it wouldn't have any effect? I mean, you got prophecy, right? And, there are those who are making the bucks right now because they 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 will tell you that they're not religious, but yet they will use prophetic biblical prophecy. Just saying. It's the problem with prophecy. Yeah. I'll have to take the Sarah Connor's position. The future is not set. That's going to be my way. But we are talking about the global reset. It's not something that is going to happen. It's already happened. We're living it. And wow. I'm going to get Barbara DeLong back on. And I tell you, I'd like to do a show. If you are in tune to see the short term, midterm, long term future, let me know. Love to do a show where we would just do it as a collective, as a group, and just see. I mean, if time is time, then just because the future isn't seen does not mean it doesn't exist. It's time, right? We plan for the future, we live in the present, but we think of the past. Anyway, Robert V, how are you, my friend? So it's interesting. Hey, S. Lee, owe you an email, got myself bunged up, and so a lot of that's just gotten a little bit pushed to the side, but we'll catch up. So, Robert, got your email. Love to do a show with you. Um, Robert has been on a manifesting journey. And Robert, as I was reading your email, it's interesting. When you manifest a desire, a wish, a prayer. I mean, isn't that what prayer is about? If you're making supplications to God that, you need a new car or you need something that you're asking this God to rearrange events, uh, future, present, in order to get what you want, to get your prayer answered. I mean, you think about it. Reminds me back in the day. So, people believe in prosperity, and I do. But I've learned that, prosperity isn't just physical things. They call them trappings, and there's good reason why they call them physical trappings, because that's what they do. But there is a prosperity that I learned back in my Bible training days was to always look at David, King David. Not sure if he lived, who cares? It was a great story. But the thing about David was that David wasn't afraid to ask for the biggest and best. None of this small shit. I mean, no. And if you read the story of his life, it's very interesting. He had favor. He had the favor of God. I used to go around, folks, and that was when I was back in the day of, you know, back in the life as a CEO, um, and in the payment industry, it's really expensive to get into the payment industry. Really expensive. But anyway, um, so when we would make application to get into these investor conferences, you went up some against the competition. There was one that I was invited back to in Salt Lake City. And actually, that's where I met Brandon Fugel, Skinwalker Ranch. Yeah, that guy, he's a nice guy. But anyway, um, my proclamation to anyone I talk to, I said, we're going to get chosen. And, people say, well, how do you know that? And I'd say to them, I said, I got the favor of God on my life. No matter what I do, no matter what's out there, I have this divine favor. And today I realize that, it's no different. God exists within you. It's not this outside thing. So that means each and every one of us are, in essence, our own gods. Like that shit. Well, sure you do. But yeah. So Robert, getting back to you, my friend, he has and just manifested right and left. Would you say, Robert, that your life has dramatically shifted and changed from a year ago? Yeah. And the brother with the horse, that was favor on you. That's all I got to say. I feel bad for the horse. The horse ended up dying. So when Robert and I get a date, we'll have to let every one of you know the story. And of course, Robert, if you ever have the time during this moment, which I believe would be what, 11 o'clock your time, or are you central? Anyway, it's out there, brother. Love to have you. Robert is a good friend and a brother. And yeah, he just wrote, yes, my life has changed a lot. See? Hey, Jan. Hey, F. Kitty. Good to see you. Susan. Hello. Off the Hook. Red Herring Media. What's up? Lost in Space. Good to see you. Much love to you, Deborah Sloan. Thank you, darling. Gaia. How are you and Paul? Speaking favor over you again. Joyce, good to see you. Jargo, and if I haven't seen your name, then I apologize. Hey, Lauren, I'm at the airport headed for New Orleans. My mom's heart surgery didn't go well, and I'm headed down to say goodbye. Wishing Janelle an easy transition. Well, I'm going to tell you what, Lauren, we'll just take a second here and uh Janelle, she is in transition. And folks, just take a second and just um Lauren, I know your face and I can see you in my mind's eye, and we just extend that peace that surpasses all understanding. The moment of transition, as the spirit begins to disengage from the body, and we begin to see the amalgamation of the soul spirit as it begins to make that transition into a new dimension, a new time. So we just wish her well. We speak favor over her. And I have a sense, Lauren, that there's already a welcoming home party being made for her. Never met your mom, but I sense that. I sense that there, you know, religion would have it that it's a very sad and just a very heavy time. No, it's a time of celebration. As much as we love these bodies take a lot of energy, particularly if you ever hurt yourself. Raise your hand. You know, let's see, still got the evidence of it, and it's been almost 2 weeks. In fact, it has been. So takes a lot of energy, takes a lot of spirit energy. And the soul, depending on how you're, I'm gonna read something on the soul because it ties into what we're talking about. I sometimes it's like, okay, the allocation of power and energy, it's come to an end. It's not the end. And so we wish the spirit body and its transition, as well as her spirit. So there you go, Lauren. We love you. Off the hook. What's up? Good to see you as well. Boy, Scotty boy, how you doing? Good to see you as well. As I go up here. Okay, there we go. Now I got everything. Jargo, how you doing? I think Gogo is there as well, all the way from Croatia. Lady Ellie, good to see you. So yeah, lot going on. The playbook. We got into a little bit of yesterday, and as you get into this, because we're living it, there is no doubt in my mind that the next 3 months are going to change our lives. We're all going to be affected by these changes. It's being said that on September 12th, former President Donald Trump will be sentenced to prison. I'm reading through sources who they seem to have better connections than you and I. The number they're hearing is up to 18 months in prison, that the Secret Service is already making plans for when sentence is given they want this, folks, to have Donald Trump immediately turned over to the custody of the New York prison system. They want to see him handcuffed, and they want to see him being marched out the door and off to prison. I think that's a dumb move. But that's in circles way above me. I hope that's not the case. I hope that rational minds can come together and realize that that's not a good thing, no matter what. So, and it's interesting, just came across this. Um, there is a strong likelihood that President Biden will be stepping down, making Kamala Harris the interim president. Think about that one. Um, these are major things. If they happen, it it's and Americans, we don't appreciate this system that we have. And that's why you have the New World Order, the World Economic Forums. That's why they want to take this system down. Because this system is unique. And we do a transfer of power every 4 years, or if the incumbent is reelected, then they immediately become a lame duck president. And, then there's this jostling for position of power. Um, Here is something that most people don't realize. The majority do not rule. We are ruled by a very finite minority. They're the ones who make the decision, and it's the majority who carries that burden. And if you hear and believe what the current president is saying, that if Donald Trump is reelected, they're not going to surrender power. We've never faced that as a nation. And all of this is playing into this playbook. And it's already now being announced that apparently there is another worldwide health emergency. In the book, we're going to read the next pandemic has already been planned. Well, Tony Fauci said that as well as he was leaving the stage. And so, as you look at this, what are we really talking about? What we're talking about is the soul of humanity. We live in, there really is very limited freedom, but we live under the illusion that we are a free society. And to a certain degree, there is truth within that. But as I have said, the internet is a weapon, not a tool for mankind. Technology has been the enslaver of, in times past. This is the problem I have with Kamala Harris. When I look at this race, I look at it as though we should be looking at it as though we're interviewing a potential CEO. Every American citizen should, and you don't want to take the recommendation of a party. Screw that. They're already compromised. So you look at the individuals and you want to do an interview. We're the board of directors, or supposed to be. And if you look at it like that, well, then it's, you have your sheet, but you look for competency, right? You look for someone who is in line with generally the general idea of what a society is, a culture, government, and how the citizen, we have the Declaration of Independence, the Bill of Rights. That was another thing that makes America unique. We have these contracts, and these contracts are with the contracts of the people and the government. Well, you've got this whole thing now with Klaus Schwab, who they can't move their agenda if you have governments like the United States. We're actually a republic, not a democracy. Democracies fail. I read a book a number of years ago that pointed out how if you look at past history and you look at democracies, they all fail. I mean, Greece was a democracy. Rome was a democracy. The Sumerians were a democracy. Problem is, they all fail. And as Thomas Jefferson wrote, we are in the greatest experiment of mankind. And there are other people, other bloodlines, families who don't like the United States. That's the problem I have with Kamala Harris. she's a self-proclaimed, I watched the video, the interview where she said she's a Marxist. Well, that is in direct opposition for the vast majority, at least I believe, of people. Marxism is a terrible form of government. It fails. But if you look at this New World Order, and let's just be candid with you. Every religion has the same goal as the New World Order. They want to convert you. Problem is with the Klaus group, they have a pretty detailed plan. And when you read this plan, you got to remember they wrote this back in the height of the pandemic. And that, that had such an impact on human psyche. The section we're going to read, because it's too long to read word for word, it becomes mind-numbing. But if you can keep the synaptic pathways flowing, it's very scary. Because they saw what we lived through. This thing, remember the lockdowns? I mean, I look back and it's odd. It's almost like that didn't happen, but I remember standing in line to go into the grocery store. I mean, never saw that before. Everywhere you went, the few essential businesses that were open, and we all complied willingly. I mean, no one was pointing a gun at you. And we should all learn how we as a species, we adapt very quickly. But nevertheless, it changed everything. And it changed the whole perception of what the world was. And as I read to you yesterday, Klaus Schwab said it best. What we once lived in before COVID, that world's gone. And so now you have people that are reshuffling the deck. And I'm telling you what I really get from all this. So I wrote this and I said it yesterday as well. All right, so what's the end game? Really, why can't they just leave us alone? Why is it that you have to have a Marxist, candidate? I don't understand that. And, listen, Trump is no prize either. He has a very big ego. And, hell, all right, fine. I mean, you got billions. Who the hell am I supposed to say something? At least he's got a record. Unfortunately for Miss Harris is that she has made some very wrong indiscretions in her career into public service that, when people, and I'm not going to get in here because there has to be a certain level of decorum and couth, but you can check it out and we all know the story. And folks, this is a big deal. Because if the day ever comes in the United States where Marxism, socialism, which is already creeped in, there's more, we're more of a socialist culture, society than anything else. And quite frankly, I don't like it. I like this idea that we have this thing of free speech to where we can talk in a rational, cognitive, logical manner. We don't buy the government's bullshit. Don't buy the corporate America bullshit. But we have to coexist with it. And I quite frankly believe that the idiom of live and let live is not too bad a way to go. But getting back to this end game, it seems to me that Mr. Schwab and his group, they want to dominate our minds. They want to get inside us. And it's very clear. They see the soul as a tangible, I would say asset by the way that it's written, but a tangible existence. And I thought, isn't that odd? There was so much we're going to get into that's odd. And like I said, we won't get into all of it, but we'll get enough into it. So they really want our soul. You see, they found out through communism, through Stalin and his massacre of his people and other dictators and tyrants. It's like this governor, this Tim Walz. You know, Tim, here's the deal, man. Hang it up. They caught you in a lie, dude. And it's not your service that the veterans are disgusted with you. It's the fact that you lied. You lied about valor. You see, if a man lies about valor, he's not a man. He's a coward. You have no character, sir. No integrity. And that makes you unfit for the office. It's true. But it's, and what we saw during the COVID, look at these governors, different governors, they were tyrannical. Because it's the soul they want to control. They know they can get to the body. That's pretty easy. But controlling your mind to get you to agree, to become compliant, obedient. The soul. I found something I thought I'd just share with you here. I won't, but I want to pull it up. Thought this was interesting. Says the soul is considered both for religious and philosophy to be the immaterial aspect or essence of a human being, conferring individuality and humanity. Now, we read yesterday that this thing about humanists, that's an interesting word. We're going to get more into that. Okay, I continue. Often considered to be synonymous with the mind or the self. For most theologies, the soul is further defined as that part of the individual which partakes of divinity and transcends the body in different explanations. But regardless of the philosophical background in which a specific theory gives the transcendence of the soul as the source of its everlasting essence, often considered to survive the death of the body. It is always appraised as a higher existence for which all should fight for. Right on. In this regard, all religious beliefs assert that there are many unseen battles aiming to take hold of the human soul. Wow. Well, I guess if you want some prophecy, there you go. Either between divinity and or evil, or between worlds, or even between the body and the soul itself. There's a thing about it. You know, if the body is sick, is it because the soul is sick? Or is the body sometimes in rebellion of the soul and vice versa? You know, I was taught in my theology, Paul wrote extensively about that, I do those things that which I say that I don't want to do, but the things that I don't want to do is the things I end up, yeah, the ever on the hamster wheel. These unseen battles over the human soul raging in the whole world made it a central item of the entire universe. I mean, that's a question I have. All right, I got spirit beings down. That ain't no big deal. I got that. But the soul thing, if the soul is in fact real, so does that mean that if there's, let's say, other life out in the cosmos, and let's say that it is of a higher intelligence, so does the soul represent intelligence, or does intelligence represents the soul? In other words, can you have intelligence without the soul? Can the soul exist without intelligence? Interesting debate. If you cared a bit, send your request in. I'd love to talk about that. But for the visible and unseen worlds, an item of which whoever takes possession will also become the ruler of the universe. So are souls just an earth thing? You know, and all the people that make contact through channeling to other species, other races out in the universe, that's a question I've never heard him say. We saw the alien from, you know, um, in the Vatican. I mean, if he's seeking God, does that then indicate that he's got a soul? And if the aliens are here, because we damn sure know the demons are, now the angels, okay. So that means that we're being visited, interacted with other intelligences. But now, if I revert back to my biblical training, and now as I look at it and through as a philosopher's eyes, it's very clear in particularly the Abrahamic beliefs that the soul was something that was special, something that whoever it was who put us together um, gave us. Well, gave to Adam, if you believe the narrative. But nevertheless, then we discovered that the so-called demons, these Nephilim, that when they died or were killed, or however you want to say it, they didn't really die. We find out now that they exist in an in-between realm. They're not dead, they're not alive, but they're very much able to interact with both, but they're not a part of either. That jack with your mind. I don't care who you are. That would just jack with your mind. But it is said that they have a soul of some sort. So this soul thing really becomes interesting because it's a major theme in the New World Order. They say so. We continue. Through this philosophy, the value of the soul became admissible, incomprehensible, and without resemblance. The point for making such a broad overview of the soul in religious beliefs is the question of whether we can build an interfaith discourse based on the religious and science looking at the soul, and then debate the valuable issue of the soul itself. Wow. Okay. That's interesting because that leads into this next point. So I want to bring this out. And so let's get right into it. Again, you have to read what's in between the lines here. I mean, these are smart. Well, all right, let me just say that they're intelligent enough to think on a different level than most human beings. The one thing that, as I've said, if Lucifer exists, and I'd love to sit down and do an interview, is that you would have to say that he's a pretty smart entity, you know? And so these people, and again, is this human inspired? Is it alien, demonic, angelically inspired, and then human implemented? Well, obviously it's human implemented. So Read again. So the very nature of the fact of redefining our humanness, weird word. And look at this contract, section 3.1.1. And this is a contract. And they talk about the better angels in our nature or not. Now we're talking power structures here. We're talking about a group of people in the world, and I really don't think any of us know who's really in this group, but they are seeking to dominate this world. It is, as I said, with the Abrahamic religion. Go ye therefore into all the world and convert. I mean, the idea is a one world religion. So I don't know who got the idea first. Was it the one world government, or was it the one? Well, it would appear that maybe it was the one world religion, right? But they bring in the analogies, the allegories and metaphors of unseen beings, and they admit that this is a part of us, this thing we have as a soul. Now, they looked at this experiment of the lockdown and they wanted to see what happened. I'm sure that the aliens, the angels, the God, or whoever, they were watching as well. The whole world shut down. And as I said the other day, they broke the fucking machine. In fact, Trump, as I went back and looking in past clips, he actually said that. In April of 2020, he was saying that we've never done this before. Humanity, society, culture, the whole financial system shut it down. And he said off the cuff, and that's just the way I guess the man is, he said, I don't know if we can ever get it back together again. And you look at what's happened today. I mean, you got an administration in their policies where inflation is just killing people. The privilege I've had is, and I would have never thought this, that when I pass over, I'm leaving a legacy that I had never planned it. I recently was talking to someone and I said, the interesting thing about being on a platform like YouTube for over 10 years is that it's a living diary. And what a freaking journey. I've met all of y'all. Yeah. And that's how I know that we have this thing, whether it's a spirit, it's a soul, but I just have the strongest sense that many of us, this is not our first time meeting. It's not our first time rodeo meeting up with everybody else. And what a freaking journey it's been. So anyway, so psychologists point out that the pandemic, like most transformative events, that's huge. It's in the first sentence. It transformed us as a species, as a culture, as a society. We found out what happens to people in power, how they immediately think that they are separated. They think that they're demigods. We saw that, and we saw the tyranny. But yet in the midst of all that, and this is what this article went on to say, there was also this bonding. And as much as I don't like the internet and the technology and what it's doing in reshaping us, the one benefit I can say, although with many of the platforms, YouTube, Facebook, a lot of them that became really restrictive in what could be said, but nevertheless, the medium was there. And it allowed an outlet. And it was interesting because, many of us came together and there were relationships that, different points of view. It was quite interesting. but it transformed us, no doubt. It goes on to say it has the ability to bring out the best and the worst in us. Angels or devils? What is the evidence so far? Now, do I think that that is just a coincidence that they would use such words? No. I mean, we could put aliens in there. So it goes on to say how this whole thing with the pandemic, it collapsed our economic system. It put tremendous pressure on so many other systems. And never before were there so many people that were restricted in such small spaces in order to live with other people that you typically, relationships, the reason why most relationships become troublesome is sometimes is because the couples don't realize you still need that individual time. It's just a fact. Not the fact that you love them less or more. It's just that it is. And if you're put into a situation where it's forced 24/7, well, if you're not truly soulmates, you'll find out, as many did. But in any case, so it talks about this collective sensitivity that ranged from, different people, how we came together. I lived in Denver at the time. And if y'all remember, it was, howling at the moon. People would go out at 8 o'clock. It was 8 o'clock or 7. I can't remember. Maybe y'all can remember. And people would start howling. Now that's weird. If you look this from a sociologist point of view, look at this. You had people, and I remember right there, I lived in Highlands Ranch. Um, people walked outside and were howling. Now, isn't that, I mean, as we look back now, but it was a release. It was where you had that sense of community. You're in your backyard, and most of the homes out there, particularly in Highlands Ranch, are like postage stamps, and so your neighbor's right on top of you. But yeah, howling at the moon, and we did these crazy things because we and they point this out that we as a species, we have to have physical contact with one another. We have to have contact with other human beings. Even in a environment of the internet, me talking and you listening, all those in the chat room. I mean, we've got to, and that was one of the damaging things is that, and it's my hypothesis, and others are in the same camp. The pandemic broke Christianity. It broke a lot of the religions. Because in order for a religion to continue, it's a spell. And it requires this constant reinforcement. And that's why you come together into the place of worship, with other people who have like minds, et cetera, et cetera. And when churches, and I knew I was very working with a number of them back then, revenue fell, attendance fell. Coming out of the pandemic, more churches went bankrupt. And it was the single largest migration out of a religion. I don't know if they'd ever reverse that, but that was one of the other problems. The other on, for instance, commercial real estate. It was the death blow to the malls. They couldn't survive. And as a result, all of this collapsed. And we're still seeing it today. I don't believe anything that comes out of the Biden administration. I mean, I don't believe anything that comes from the government. I mean, you think about it. Our own government tried to take Donald Trump out. I mean, that's messed up. But anyway, if you look at where we are now, we're in a recession. I don't care what the Fed has to say. Those numbers are manipulated. I mean, there's more fudging going on in that than a fudge factory. That's all I got to say. But anyway, so they call this it says, as human beings, we crave certainty, hence the need for cognitive closure. Anything that can help erase the uncertainty and ambiguity that paralyzed our ability to function normally. And this was the shock. Again, no one has ever done this. It's never been done before. Shutting down. I mean, we've had wars and where, in wars today, where you don't go outside, get killed. But we did it in a quiet way. I mean, the other aspect of this article that well, it's a contract really, is that they also realized that there was this huge negative effect. People began to feel and think they were isolated. They were. And what we found, and it's always, I'm just saying, so these people in government, they didn't know this. I mean, you're the ones that got the fucking PhDs, your masters. Apparently, it's about as good enough for toilet paper. No, I think I'd rather have toilet paper because it wouldn't chafe your ass. Because obviously, you need to get your money fucking back from the school. Because there were idiots. Just idiots. And no one of these people said, you think that there might be some mental health issues if we do this? You think we ought to maybe get this kind of planned ahead of time? No. And as a result, the amount of deaths, suicides, the fallout. And I poured this out. I said, put in the simple possible terms. If, as human beings, we do not collaborate to confront our existential challenges, the environment and the global governance freefall, among others, we are doomed. Now, that's key. Because they really do believe that we're heading for this doomsday. They just think in a different way that they have the answers, and they apparently have the money and the power. They can influence elections. They can influence politicians, policymakers. It sucks. But it seems to be meticulously orchestrated. Then they get into the moral choices, and it's very interesting because they spend a good time talking about morality, but they point out the problem with morality is from whose point of view? You talk morals, you're talking about, well, ethics, right? Integrity. But when you have politicians that lie, you see, the problem that with Harris, again, she's fake. Us hippies would call her plastic. There's no substance to her. And when you get awakened enough into the occult and you see this, you go, can't the rest of you? No, they can't see it. They don't want to see it. Why? Because they already are inside their souls. Anyway, so morality, morals, how do we determine, and they get really deep into this on morals. It says the pandemic has forced all of us, citizens and policymakers alike, willingly or not, to enter into a philosophical debate about how to maximize the common good in the least damaging way possible. That just freaks my mind out. Because the change is going to happen. You and I got no say in it. Now we can deal with the effects and etc., but the fact of the matter is that this is being done by a group of humans. I'm thinking, what's the alternative? If it ain't humans, then it's alien. But it affects us all. And then they use this key word, the common good. You see, one of the things I learned in debate was that when an opponent cannot stand on his or her merits of the debating points, then they deflect. And when they deflect, they will accuse their opponent of being, you've heard Biden say this, that, that Trump is the existential threat to democracy. No, but Joe Biden is. Kamala Harris is. They are the existential threat. And that's how you do it. So what you are, you point the finger at your opponent and you tell them that's what they are. And people fall for it. But you get into this common good. Marxists, Lenin, Stalin, Mao, I can go on. They believed that their ideology was the superior common good for their slaves. And that's the other problem with Harris. She ought to admit that her family were brutal. They were slave masters. They traded human beings. It's and you have to come out. You can't say that you're against something and then it's in your family history. It don't work that way. And listen, the fair hair boy, he's got his own issues as well. Anyway, the common good was the whole point here. And so they go in depth. And again, I'm not going to get into all of this because, boy, when you really get into it, they have thought this thing out, and now they've had a number of years to even perfect it. I'm sure that there are updates to this. I'll read this. Like all notions of moral philosophy, the idea of common good is elusive and contestable. Since the pandemic started, it has provoked furious debate about whether to use Althusian calculus when trying to tame the pandemic or to stick to the sacrosanct principle of sanctity of life. And we saw how our species dealt with this. There were those who made policies that were just anti-human. And then you had others that were extremely compassionate and saying, well, how do we work this? How do we get this? It was something, and it has changed our species. I don't know what the next one is going to look like, but they've already planned for it. In fact, in this document, they talk at length about what the next one is going to look like. I found this interesting. This economist and philosopher, Amartya Sen, said, the presence of disease kills people. The absence of livelihood also kills people. Some deep stuff here, folks. And what my point in all of this is that they've thought this down into the most, how shall I say, to the finest points. They made in the name of what we think is right or wrong, and therefore define us as to who we are. So it really gets down. I think that was one of my problems with the whole lockdown things, is that we were having advice that was given by compromised individuals that had no integrity, no character. When you sell yourself out to money, you have no character. If you sell your soul for the name of power, you have no character. And I'll tell you right now, as an occultist, the spirits don't trust you. And if you want some bad mojo to come on you. You start proclaiming one thing, and these spirits will, they have a way of doing things. But back to this thing is that, so then who defines this? And this is already in the planning. And the point is that the sad point is most humans will not do what you and I do. We have this privilege of coming together. By the way, go over there in Odyssey. Get over there. They say that they can't find my name, so I'll have to leave a link. Or actually, I have. But anyway, we have this privilege of where we've come together and formed a community, tight little group. And we're absolutely steady. This group is about, for the most part, about 1,500. I love every one of them. I like all the subscribers. Subscribe if you haven't, please. But we are so unique. I mean, for me to come on and do an hour show with Trina and Jenny and other guests, we talk about the philosophical debate, and we talk religion, we talk politics, we talk philosophy, ideologies. I learned so much. I've learned so much from all of you. This 10-year journey plus has been a fascinating journey. My mind has expanded. My awareness is if I look back to where I was 15 years ago, I would have never, if you were to have shown me a video that you could have gone into the future and shown me sitting here talking and showed that to me 15 years ago, I'd say, no, that's a doppelganger. That ain't me. Wow. So as we continue, they get into mental health and well-being. Now, this one was a little disturbing to me because when you have citizens, agencies, bureaucracies, the system that make a claim that you are mentally unstable, very difficult to argue against that. And when you add all this pressure, all this stress that came out of this, I highlighted this point. Humans are inherently social beings. Companionship and social interactions are a vital component of our humanness. What a term. Wasn't it humanity? Our humanities, right? If deprived of them, we find our lives turned upside down. Social relations are, to a significant extent, obliterated by confinement measures and physical or social distancing. And in the case of the COVID-19 lockdowns, this occurred at a time of heightened anxiety when we needed them the most. Rituals that are inherent to our human condition, handshakes, hugs, kisses, and many others were suppressed. Loneliness and isolation resulted. For now, we know neither whether nor when we might return completely to our old way of life. Now, we're back to the point where we don't have these other restrictions, but it scarred us. Because again, they didn't know the effect that they have. And again, they have no doubt updated this. And finally, the impact of the pandemic in terms of mental health cannot be quantified or assessed in a generalized way, but the broad contours are known in a nutshell. One, individuals with pre-existing mental health conditions like depression will increasingly suffer from anxiety disorders. Two, social distancing measures, even after they've been rolled back, will have worsened mental health issues. Three, in many families, the loss of income consecutive to unemployment will plunge people into the death of despair phenomenon. 4, domestic violence and abuse, particularly against women and children, will increase as long as the pandemic endures. And 5, vulnerable people and children, those in care, the social economically disadvantaged, and the disabled in need of above average level of support will be particularly at risk of increased mental distress. Yeah. They go on through this, and I can see that my time is getting short here. Because we're going to cover this some more. Once you read the book, and if you want it, it's out there. I have it on PDF. Just email me. I'd be more than happy to send it to you. But it's very clear that there is a blueprint. Someone's following a playbook. And I look today in all the things that are happening all around us, and to say that this is just mere coincidence, it was just how the odds were, Steiger. I mean, who would have guessed? No. It's like they are purposely turning up the heat, and we're in this pressure cooker. And the problem is the valve got stuck, and there's no way to release this pent up pressure. That's what it appears. And folks, next week, just get ready. I mean, in fact, we'll talk about peace and love on this side. We'll be the John Anoka going, all we are saying is give peace. Yeah, you get it. So, woo. But this group here, that's why oppressors hate free thinkers. We are the biggest existential threat that they have. We're the rebels. We're the ones that question everything. We're the ones that'll hold any politician or bureaucrat their feet to the fire. I'm not a Democrat. I'm not a Republican. I happen to believe that a multi-party system is the only system that will fix our government. I did a whole video on it. Go over onto, in the archives. And if you go over to Artists First, they still got it in the archives. I laid it out. But that's just my belief. And I'm happy to say that more and more Americans are beginning to see we've got to get rid of the two-party system. It's corrupt, it's broken, and it's fucked up. And we as American citizens need to begin to promote these other parties. And while you're a Democrat, why are you a Democrat? Are you just an idiot? And if you're a Republican, get your head out of your ass. These two parties are broken. Look at what they gave us. Kamala Harris, are you getting thing with Willie? Come on. And Donald Trump. Not that the fact that Trump isn't a smart guy. Kamala Harris is not a smart woman. But, of all of America, that these two parties, this is all we got? That's fucked up. I don't care what it is. I don't like it. But what the hell are you going to do, right? Hey, Gaia. Much love to you. So anyway, folks, I tell you what, I really appreciate the doctor and a number of you others. There are some brilliant people here. All of you are. But others that have unique gifts of insights. And I just want to say thanks. I read all the comments, and it's really, I sometimes I have to just say, wow, it's just favor to have such people like that. Hey, Mary Wins, how are you? And she's a joke too. I tell you, it is just my personal opinion, but I think that there's more than one person inside that vassal. Just me. Robert Scott, how are you doing, my friend? So, Robert V, let's get together and love to do that show. I don't typically, do shows at night, but hey, he's my brother. He ain't heavy. Deborah Sloan, how are you doing? Regina Klum, thank you. The states must assemble to go back to yeah, I agree. I'm a part of a group that we're trying to get a constitutional convention. We've been resisted by the Republicans, the Democrats, the Libertarians, but there is, and we're now in over 34, 35 states. It's called the Convention of the States. We believe that the time has come to have a constitutional convention. We have not had it as a nation in over 240 years, but they won't let us. They fear the people. That's all I got to say. Cool. Robert, I'll be more than happy to come on yours and love to have you on this one. Absolutely be an honor. All right, folks. Hey, Eric, how you doing? Off the hook. Equicentric, how are you doing? Good to see you. Cranial, exactly. Head up the ass syndrome. I agree. But I think that's the only way you're going to do it. A multi-representation of power. I mean, Europe's been doing it, and I really don't find any problem with it. It keeps at least the field somewhat level. Didn't say it was all the way level, somewhat. All right, folks. Boy, I really went over. Well, much love to everyone. Thank you, Jackie. Nothing missing, nothing broken. And we are the Soul Tribe. Thank you all. Thank you for hitting the like button. Thank you for leaving the comments. And hey, thank you for sharing the videos. It all, guess, ads. You got to feed the machine, right? All right, everyone. Susie Q, much love to you. John Price, right back, open-minded. Yes, peace, favor, and prosperity to all. Scotty Boy, they gave us this. Wayne, will you be here tomorrow? I'm thinking I will be. So, yes, Lady Ellie, crazy. I was thinking to Meta last night and talked about the spiritual spell. Yeah. Hey, you think these social platforms not using that shit? Bet your ass they are. All right. Much love, everyone. Peace out. We will see each other again. Probably, like I said, I'm going to try to get here and do it. We got plenty of time.